Welcome back to Movie Recap. Today I'm going to explain the movie Species, released in the year 1995. At the start of the movie it's revealed that the state government has been conducting various research programs to find out about alien civilizations. The project is called SETI, which stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. The scene then shifts to the United States government laboratories in Dugway, Utah, where all the secret research programs are carried out. The spotlight of these experiments is a 12-year-old extraterrestrial girl named Sil, who is kept inside a protective glass chamber. Just then the head scientist, Dr. Xavier Fitch, approaches Sil and apologizes to her right after two men in hazmat suits bring a couple of cylinders containing cyanide gas and connect them to the chamber. The little girl begs for her life, but everyone just stands there and watches her. Soon the poisonous gas covers the chamber, but surprisingly Sil is left unaffected by it. To everyone's horror, the little girl breaks the glass chambers and escapes from the lab. Seeing the danger, Fitch orders his entire army to go after her. However, the smart girl manages to evade her pursuers and board a train. Before departing, she kills a homeless man and takes his clothes. The following morning the train reaches a station and Sil decides to roam around. When she reaches a department store, she observes some customers and realizes that she needs currency to buy stuff. Hence she cleverly steals someone's bag from the station and boards the next train. Later she heads to the kitchen compartment of the train and steals some money and food. When a ticket collector approaches her, she hands her the stolen money and gets a ticket. Elsewhere, Fitch and his team discover the homeless man's dead body near the train platform and understand that Sil is behind it. Back inside the train, the ticket collector again enters Sil's compartment to turn off the TV, but she gets surprised to find Sil missing. After a bit of searching, she enters another room and witnesses a monstrous creature on the wall. Before she gets a chance to react, the creature sucks her inside and finishes her off. Shortly after, Sil emerges from the creature. In the next scene, a man named Preston Lennox arrives at a secret lab where he meets three people who are also waiting for Fitch. Soon the quartet starts introducing themselves. The first guy is Dan Smithson, who claims to be an empath and has the ability to feel deeply. The second guy is Stephen Arden, an expert in cross-cultural behavior from Harvard's anthropology department. The lady is Dr. Laura Baker, a famous molecular biologist who has carried out several secret research projects in the past. At last, Preston introduces himself as a freelance government problem solver. Here we get to know that the group has been summoned to find ways to capture the escaped threat Sil. After a while, the operations commander Fitch enters the room and starts briefing about Sil. Fitch reveals that in the year 1974 his team sent some materials to space, such as human DNA, a map of the Earth, and so on, in hopes of contacting any form of extraterrestrial beings present there. Surprisingly, after 19 years they received a message which consisted of some kind of formula to produce fuel. When the formula worked, Fitch assumed the aliens to be friendly, as the newly produced fuel was cheaper and more usable. He also claims that in the second phase, his team decided to combine human DNA with alien DNA. After a lot of research, they finally managed to create a human-alien hybrid and named her Sil. After this, he displays footage which shows the rapid transformation of an egg into Sil. When he reveals that Sil transformed into a 12-year-old girl in just 3 months, everyone is left stunned. However, the little girl soon started exhibiting unusual behavior, and this is when Fitch realized that she could be a threat to humanity. Hence he decided to terminate her, but before he could do so, she fled the lab. Because of this, Fitch requests everyone in the room to help him track down and eliminate Sil. In the following scene, Sil, who has now transformed into an adult, arrives in Los Angeles dressed as a ticket collector and walks off the platform. Meanwhile, Fitch and his team track down the train after learning of the dead body. When Laura notices the bloody cocoon, she assumes that Sil has matured into an adult woman. The group then concludes that Sil has moved to Los Angeles because it's a good fit for her elsewhere. As Sil is strolling through the busy streets of Los Angeles, she comes across a beautiful wedding dress at a store and decides to buy it. After this, she again gets back on the streets and starts observing everything around her. Later, she books a hotel room and learns how to turn on the television. As she's scrolling through different shows, she comes across some intimate scenes and gets curious about reproduction. Hence, she inquires with the hotel receptionist about where she can find men, and the latter directs her to a club. On the other hand, Fitch and his team are conducting an experiment with the same extraterrestrial DNA. When Laura tries to penetrate the egg, the camera inside the shell gets damaged, and hence she, along with Preston, are compelled to head inside the chamber to replace it. Just then, Dan realizes that something is wrong inside the chamber. Meanwhile, Laura replaces the camera successfully, but the reaction has already begun. When Fitch orders the duo to quickly close the shell and return, they panic and accidentally drop a bolt. Left with no other option, Fitch closes the chamber and locks the duo inside with the alien creature. Despite everyone pleading with Fitch to let the duo escape, he doesn't listen. Suddenly, the fused creature, which has now become gigantic, attacks Laura and Preston. Seeing this, Fitch presses an emergency button and decides to burn down the whole chamber. Luckily, Dan pushes Fitch away and Arden finally opens the door, letting Laura and Preston inside while the chamber burns to ashes. Elsewhere, Still enters a nightclub and notices everyone dancing. Soon she's approached by a man, and while they're talking, another girl interrupts them. Enraged, she follows the girl to the ladies' restroom and brutally kills her. Following this, she approaches another man and starts talking to him. Meanwhile, Fitch gets to know about Sal's location thanks to the activation of the credit card that she stole. They hurriedly reach the hotel and find out that Sil has ventured to the nearby nightclub. However, by the time they reach the club, Sil has already left with the guy. The man then takes Sil to his home and starts persuading her for intercourse. Initially, Still agrees and she starts stripping. However, she soon changes her mind and asks the guy to drive her back to the club. When the guy refuses her request and tries to make out with her, she eliminates him in cold blood. Soon, Fitch and his team arrive at the house, but again they're a bit late. After investigating the house for a while, they find out that Sil is trying to reproduce. On further inspection, they also find out that Sil rejected the man as he was diabetic. The next morning, as Sil is walking through a busy street, she's accidentally hit by a car and knocked out. Soon a large crowd gathers around her, and someone calls the police. Meanwhile, Fitch and his team examine the CCTV footage from the hotel room and conclude that Sil's reproductive organs have fully developed. This worries everyone because if she manages to find a partner and reproduce, the world will be taken over by aliens. Just then, Fitch receives a call and learns that the deceased man's car has been discovered in Santa Monica. In the next scene, a man named John Carey transports Sil to the Park Bay Hospital. Even though he has no relationship with Sil, John pays the hospital bills and waits outside. In the hospital, a doctor notices Sil healing her own wounds, after which she rushes up and walks out with John. Scared, he immediately calls the police and explains to them the entire story. Fitch also finds out about the news and instructs Laura and Preston to visit the hospital. There they eventually find John's address and immediately decide to visit him. At John's house, Sil's hormones take over her and she cannot stop herself from getting romantic with John. Just then, Laura and Preston enter the house, but they make a loud sound which notifies the couple in the pool. John considers going to the door to check, but still holds him back and reveals her desire to have a baby. Hearing this, John gets horrified and tries to escape, but Sil drags him inside the water and drowns him. When Preston and Laura arrive at the scene, they can only find John's corpse. After patiently waiting for an opening, Sil escapes from the bushes naked and enters a woman's car. She then pretends to be a victim and suddenly attacks the woman to steal her clothes. At the crime scene, the group discovers that Sil hasn't been able to reproduce. Following this, they all return to their hotel. Sil also follows them and gets to know of their location. At night, Sil wakes up and we get to know that she has abducted the woman from earlier. The woman begs Sil to let her go, but she refuses. Sil then slashes her own thumb in front of the woman, but her finger regenerates miraculously. After this, she cuts the woman's finger. The next day, Sil heads to the gas station and fills a few jars with gasoline. She then steals another car and loads it with the jars along with a kidnapped woman. Elsewhere, Fitch and his group are waiting for Sil at the nightclub. As Dan exits the club, he notices Sil in front of him and immediately calls his team. When Sil begins to escape in her car, the entire team begins pursuing her. After an intense chase, Sil drives through a steep hill and jumps out right before it explodes. The explosion kills the woman inside and the team is led to believe that they have finally eliminated Sil. They think so because they discover her severed thumb inside the car. To celebrate their success, the entire team enjoys a party. Later, Sil, who has now changed her appearance, joins Laura in the restroom, but the latter cannot recognize her. After a while, Preston enters the same lift as Sil, but even he fails to recognize her. In the next scene, Preston enters Laura's room and has an intimate time with her. Meanwhile, Sil steals the key to Arden's room and starts spying on the couple next door. Just then, Arden enters the room, but like everyone else, he fails to recognize Sil. Instead, he's shocked to find a stranger in his room. When he confronts her about what she's doing there, Sil replies that she wants to be intimate with him and starts stripping off her clothes. Arden also can't resist his temptations and eventually gives in. Meanwhile, Dan, who is in his room, senses Sil's presence and summons Laura and Preston. He then informs everyone that Sil is with Arden and she needs to be stopped immediately. However, it's too late, as Sil has successfully reproduced with Arden and now the offspring is rapidly growing inside her womb. Sil eliminates Arden and flees through the wall as soon as Preston breaks the door. Fitch and his team then hurriedly pursue Sil to eliminate her before she gives birth. All of them follow her to a tunnel, and on the way, Fitch inquires about the route, but Dan is unsure. As a result, the four of them decide to divide into two groups despite Dan's concerns. After a while, Fitch notices some bubbles coming out of the water and goes to inspect it. Suddenly, a fully transformed Sil pulls him inside and eliminates him. Following this, Sil escapes through a crack on the wall and the group decides to follow her. A few moments later, Dan notices something moving, but he's skeptical about it, so he chooses to go the other way. Meanwhile, Sil gives birth to a boy who starts growing rapidly. The boy then hunts down a rat inside the tunnel and eats it menacingly. Just then, Dan approaches the extraterrestrial boy and gently invites him to come with him. However, the boy attacks Dan with his tongue. Left with no other choice, Dan burns the boy with his gun, and in the process he ignites a fire beneath him. Now Dan is left dangling from the cliff. Elsewhere, Preston is caught by Sil's tentacles around his neck, but he somehow manages to free himself using his knife. Preston then shoots Sil with his pistol and tosses her into the raging fire. When they finally assume the beast to be dead, they rush towards Dan to lift him up, but unfortunately Sil grabs his leg and refuses to let him climb. Preston then reloads his gun and blows off Sil's head, finally eliminating her. The movie ends as the three head out of the tunnel victorious. That was all from the video. I hope you liked it. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to help us out. Also leave a comment if you want us to recap your favorite movie. Until next time, take care.